Gentlemen, if you feel like you're constantly chasing her attention, if your calls go unanswered, if your efforts feel invisible, it's not your imagination, you're being devalued. And if you don't act now, you'll lose more than her, you'll lose yourself. This is not about being bitter. It's not about revenge. This is about reclaiming your power. Because the moment she stops valuing you, you must decide. Will you lower your worth or raise your standards? When a woman stops valuing you, one of the most dangerous things you can do is deny it. A lot of men ignore the red flags because they're afraid of what the truth might mean. They notice she stops initiating conversations, becomes emotionally distant, or no longer appreciates the little things, but instead of confronting it, they rationalize it. She's just busy. Maybe I did something wrong, or it's just a phase. This kind of thinking delays action and traps you in a relationship where your worth is being slowly drained. Facing the shift head-on is the first step. You need to develop the self-awareness and emotional courage to accept when something has changed. Her affection might not be the same. Her tone might feel colder. Maybe she used to get excited when she saw you, and now it feels like you're an afterthought. These are not things to overlook or minimize. They are signals, and your ability to interpret them honestly will determine what happens next. Recognizing the shift isn't about blaming her or getting angry. It's about respecting yourself enough to admit when you're not being met with the same energy you're giving. Men who value themselves don't beg to be loved. They notice when love stops being offered and take a step back. There's power in clarity. When you see things for what they are, you regain control. You're no longer acting out of confusion or desperation. You can choose your next move with intention, whether that's pulling back, having a serious conversation, or walking away altogether. But it all starts with that moment of honest recognition. If you keep lying to yourself about her behavior, you'll stay stuck. But if you face the truth, you can start building your way out. When someone stops valuing you, the worst thing you can do is keep giving more of yourself. It's a trap that many men fall into, thinking that by showing more love, making more effort, or being more available, she'll somehow realize your worth again. But relationships don't work like that. Value is not created through overcompensation. In fact, the more you chase, the less you're respected. The truth is simple. When her investment drops, yours should follow. Your time and energy are limited. Every minute spent overthinking her cold replies or analyzing her mixed signals is time taken away from building yourself. When you keep pouring into someone who isn't reciprocating, you're neglecting your own life. That energy could be going into your career, your health, your mental peace. And when you start focusing on those areas, something shifts. You shift. You begin to realize that your sense of fulfillment never depended on her in the first place. This is about redirecting your focus. Instead of wondering why she's acting distant, ask yourself, what goals have I been putting off? What habits have I let slip? How have I lost touch with the man I was before I made her my priority? When you shift your energy inward, you start to reclaim your sense of identity. There's nothing more powerful than a man who's grounded in himself. When you stop trying to win someone back and instead work on becoming someone you're proud of, you regain your edge. You become centered, calm, and harder to shake. And ironically, it's usually at that point, when you no longer need her validation, that others begin to see your value again. But by then, you'll be too focused on your purpose to care. And that's exactly where your power lies. When someone stops valuing you, your instinct might be to fix things, to call more, text more, prove your worth, or remind her of what you bring to the table. But this usually backfires. The more you chase, the more you signal that your value is tied to her approval. And once she senses that, the power dynamic shifts. You're no longer seen as a strong, grounded man. You're seen as someone seeking validation, and that energy is repelling, not attractive. Pulling back is not a game or manipulation tactic. It's a reset. It gives both of you space to feel the absence, to recognize what's been lost, and to reflect. If she genuinely cares, that space will prompt her to question her behavior. If she doesn't, that silence will simply confirm what you already needed to know. Either way, you gain clarity without compromising your self-respect. When you stop reaching out, stop checking in, and stop trying to earn back attention, you reassert your value through action, not words. It's easy to say, "I deserve better," but it's far more powerful to show it by stepping away from what no longer serves you. And in that silence, you give yourself room to think clearly. Emotions settle. Desperation fades. Confidence begins to rebuild. What many men don't realize is that walking away, or even just taking a deliberate step back, is not weakness, it's strength. It shows that you are willing to lose someone rather than lose yourself. You're not punishing her. You're protecting your peace. And if she doesn't notice or care that you've pulled back, that tells you everything you need to know. Real respect doesn't require chasing. It requires presence, balance, and mutual effort. If that's missing, your silence will speak louder than anything you could ever say. Pain can be one of the greatest catalysts for transformation, if you let it be. When a woman stops valuing you, it hurts. It can shake your confidence, make you question your worth, and drag you into a mental spiral. But that moment of rejection isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. If you choose to turn the page, the worst thing you can do is sit in that pain and let it break you. The best thing you can do is take that pain and build with it. Let it drive you to become better, not for revenge, not to prove a point, but for you. Hit the gym, improve your health. Get stronger, not just physically, but mentally. Dive into your passions, pursue your goals, and rediscover your ambition. Turn all the energy you once poured into the relationship into your own growth. This isn't about becoming a better version to win her back. It's about becoming the kind of man who never has to beg to be chosen. Men who rise after heartbreak don't rise by accident. They rise because they decide not to let the pain define them. They use the silence, the distance, the rejection as fuel. They understand that growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from discomfort, from challenge, from loss. When she stops valuing you, it's not a sign to collapse. It's a sign to rebuild. This is your opportunity to level up, to raise your standards, sharpen your mindset, and move with purpose. The man you're capable of becoming is on the other side of discipline, focus, and resilience. And when you step into that version of yourself, you won't chase validation anymore. You'll attract it effortlessly. Not because you needed someone to see your worth, but because you finally saw it yourself. What you tolerate is what you invite. When a woman stops valuing you, it's not just about her behavior, it's about what you're allowing. Many men stay in situations where they feel unappreciated or taken for granted because they haven't clearly defined what they deserve. They convince themselves that it's normal, that it's just a rough patch, or that things will eventually get better if they're just patient enough. But relationships aren't meant to be endurance tests. They're meant to be partnerships built on mutual respect, effort, and care. You need to take a hard look at what you've been accepting. If she consistently ignores your needs, disrespects your time, or treats you like an option instead of a priority, and you stay silent, you're teaching her how to treat you. Your silence becomes approval. Your inaction becomes permission. And, over time, you lose not only her respect, but your own. This is where you need to redefine your standards. Ask yourself, what kind of relationship do I truly want? What behaviors will I no longer accept? And more importantly, am I willing to walk away if those standards aren't met? That's the difference between a man who's desperate to be chosen and a man who chooses himself first. When you set boundaries and uphold them, you protect your peace. You show that your value isn't up for debate, and you make it clear that love without respect is not enough. Some people will rise to meet those standards, others won't. But either way, you win. Because you're no longer settling. You're living from a place of self-worth, not insecurity. And when you carry yourself like a man who knows what he deserves, you naturally attract people who see it too. When she doesn't value you anymore, don't panic, don't chase, level up, pull back, reclaim yourself, because the right woman will never need convincing. And the right you won't settle for anything less than mutual respect.